This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Dr. Andrew Kaufman, the American medical doctor, professor of psychiatry, molecular biologist, and expert witness. You studied at Duke, MIT, and the Medical University of South Carolina, where you conducted and published original research and lectured to students, residents, and fellows. Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, you have contradicted the mainstream media by stating that the coronavirus is not causing a new disease, that there is no evidence of increased mortality, and that modern medicine is the leading cause of death. I wanted to welcome you to the Digital Freedom Platform, and that's an independent technology solution that is of the people, by the people, for the people. It's available exclusively on our website, thanks to the generous donations of tens of thousands of people around the world, also known as the London Real Army. For anyone wanting to become a founding member of the Digital Freedom Platform, they can go to londonreal.tv/freedom to donate. Here at London Real, we've been a platform for free speech since 2011. And Doctor, I'm super excited to have you on today. And I think we maybe just jump right into it. And I wanted to know, what do you mean when you say that there is no evidence of the coronavirus causing disease?
Yeah, well, that's an excellent question. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and looked at all of the papers where there are scientists claiming to find evidence for a new virus, that they claim to isolate the virus. And I've basically scrutinized their procedures, and I've compared that to the history of how viruses and other diseases are proven to cause disease and how they're identified. So I've become familiar with the procedures and how they work. And what I've found is that the scientific procedures that have been utilized in all of these scientific studies are actually, it wouldn't be possible using those techniques to isolate a virus and purify it and prove that it exists. So what they've done really is they've done kind of two things. So one has to do with the genetic material, and one has to do with isolating a viral particle. So I'll talk about those separately. I'll talk first about the genetic material. So the general procedure that they utilize is that they identify someone with an illness that is unexplained, and they have taken lung fluid from those patients, and they do this through an invasive procedure where they put a fiber optic scope through the mouth or nose down in through the windpipe into the lungs, and they squirt some fluid there and slosh it around, and then they suck it back up. And that would have basically a mixture of different things. It's a very impure sample, so it would contain, secretions from that area, like sputum. And it would also contain a mixture of different cells, such as our own lung cells and our immune cells. It would also contain various microorganisms that are present in our normal tissues, like bacteria and fungi. And then it also, lung fluid has shown to contain free genetic material as well. And then it would also contain what's called exosomes, which have their own genetic material. And I'll elaborate on what they are in just a minute. And so they took this sample of lung fluid, which has genetic material from many sources, and they added an enzyme that would digest any cell membrane. So it basically allows the DNA or RNA to be free in the solution so that they could do further analysis. And then they've identified a sequence of RNA that they allege is from a coronavirus or from the coronavirus family. But the thing is that since this sample is impure and has many sources of RNA, it's impossible to know what the origin of from a virus. What they would do is take that lung fluid and filter it, because you can purify viral particles by filtration because they're much smaller than any other cells, even bacteria cells. And then you typically use a centrifuge with a density gradient that creates a tight band of these particles that's easy to suck up in a pipette. And then you could take those particles and extract the genetic material and say that it came from those particles. But when you have an impure sample with lots of sources of genetic material, you really don't know where it came. But yet they're using a sequence identity that has a much lower percentage, under 80%, and saying that's a coronavirus because of that. So in my opinion, this is extremely weak science, and without purifying the lung fluid sample, you really can't tell what the origin of the RNA is.